Welcome to Funnel Reboot, the podcast that shares ideas on how to upgrade your lead generation. Here is your host, Glenn Schmeltzley.
Hey, Glenn here. Welcome to Funnel Reboot, where we learn how to upgrade our lead generation. Today we're going to talk about how to turn raw data into something that marketing analysts can use. Let me remind you that I want to hear about what you've listened to in previous episodes. Please give me your feedback. Connect with me. Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm available on all those sites and would love to hear from you on what you've thought of some of our past episodes. Getting to today. Like I said, we're going to talk about where data is and how it moves. And once we're clear on that, we'll really understand how our customers and prospects are acting. Because when they go and do anything online, it generates huge amounts of data, usually inside of systems like an ad platform or a website analytics package or a SaaS tool. So that data is kept and not lost, marketing analysts bring the data into a database for warehousing. But this isn't as simple as it sounds. Getting that data out of its original source and into a format that's ready for a database and ready to work with, that takes a process. And the very process is called extract, transform, and load, or ETL. In olden days, the job of pushing and pulling files across systems, well, that was done manually, as well as the formatting of that data so it was proper and ready to integrate with other data so that it could be analyzed. And then newer programs, message brokers came along, and nowadays we have a whole slate of technology tools that can automate this. To get us familiar with this technology, I needed someone who knows it from a marketer's perspective, not so technical. After all, there was a time when I didn't know what ETL did. I barely knew how to spell it. I brought a guest on who's been in the world of paid media marketing because he would see it from that niche. It's a niche that's most famous for doing detailed analysis on large amounts of data. Now, he's recently become marketing lead at Osmos, a maker of a tool that uses AI to help companies with ETL. And besides that, he has done marketing in-house at places like Amazon and Quora, and he's worked on other brands while doing PPC with an agency. And besides that, he's well known for speaking on digital marketing and being involved with a couple of podcasts. He's also a dad, and when he's not on dad duty, you'll normally catch him somewhere in his home state of Oklahoma, out cycling on an open stretch of road. Let's go hear from him now. Today, I want to welcome to the show, JD Prater. Welcome, JD.
Hey, Glenn, how are things?
Going all right, thank you. Really glad to have you on. Can you give me a quick sense of what your current job and company is?
Yeah, if you've kept up with me at all, you know it changes rapidly. But I'm happy where I am now. Started roughly, over 3 months ago now. I'm leading the marketing team here at Osmos. Osmos is a data collaboration platform for really B2B companies. If you're pulling in external data, we can help with that.
All right. So, and that's what we're going to talk about today is how that whole process works. There's a lot of data, huge amount of data. And of course, marketers know that it just gets spun off just from things, even like what we're doing right now. This data, of course, a lot of it can just be discarded. It's sitting in outside platforms. They can decide how long to hold on to it or not. That's not good for us marketers. So that brings us to the need for us to have it in-house, right?
That's right.
But this is where, I guess we run into problems because we think we have an easy time of holding on to this data. But if anybody's, done exports from something into a comma separated file and they pull it into Excel, and they get the next one, the following month, you're quickly inundated with this data, right?
That's 100% correct. You nailed it on nail on the head. Like a lot of data currently is what you just said, CSVs getting passed around. You're trying to open them up. You're trying to clean this data. It might be the wrong data that was sent to you. You're then emailing the person back, right? It's data's flying around. And a lot of times it's incredibly manual. And that's what I have found now in my own career, but especially now working at Osmos.
Yeah. And, we don't have to think beyond the next quarter where we'll be standing in front of our peers or maybe the leadership team, right? And we got to show like a time series graph, right? That's the honored, sacred, rite of passage is put up a graph. But when we want to, of course, assemble that or understand what the trends are under the data, now those CSV files are actually a big monkey on our back.
That's right. I mean, ingesting data is incredibly important, right? Like this is what I'm talking when I say ingest is it could be something as simple as maybe pulling in Facebook ads, right? I mean, as marketers, we have this problem, but it's not just Facebook. Now you've got LinkedIn, you've got Google, right? Now let's throw in some customer data. Let's pretend you've got some brick and mortar and you need to pull those in, right? Like now data, purchase behavior, it's in different platforms. So our sources are increasing, the volume is increasing. And now it's our job to make sense of all of this while also trying to manually wrangle all this.
Yeah.
This is tough. This is why we have some of these internal teams have a massive data teams, or they'll have engineering teams working to help us. But that may not be the best path forward.
And the way I've often heard people say it, they kind of have this sense of comfort where they say, well, we use, tool X or Y, and it has the data on us. And you brought up two of them, Facebook and Google. So a previous guest on the show, I can't claim credit for this, said that's actually in a realm called second party data. So the paradigm that helped me understand was, yes, it's data that you think you have, but they are holding on to it for you.
Correct.
So you need to make that first party. And, we can go off down the other rabbit hole of what first party data means from a cookie perspective. But I'm just talking about you having your own mitts on it where you can decide how long to retain it or how you use it.
Yeah. I mean, retaining, use it. And a lot of this has been also regulated for us. Now let's throw in GDPR. Let's throw in, what is it? CCPA, right? Like now we're being told how long we can hold on to it, how long we can take action on it. So you throw in that, and now you have different countries with different data rules. That makes it even harder when you're thinking through all of this stuff. So 100% agree. That first party data is what you own. This is what you've generated. It's your own personal data around it. You've got the second party data, and then you've even got like third party data. This is coming from outside partners or outside vendors. Maybe you're buying data and you're bringing that in.
Yep.
So we're getting into like, needing tools to automate this ingestion, clean up this ingestion and load it somewhere. We call this ETL. But I don't want to, we can jump in there if you want to dive into what these letters mean.
For sure. And, all of this data really, if we haven't by now convinced people that it needs to be in some kind of database where they're warehousing it, that's what we're talking about here. And people use different terms. There's data marts, there's data lakes.
Warehouses, bases.
Sure. But, just think about it as a central repository, right? But
Correct.
we then own it. And just as we said, we are then responsible from a privacy perspective on how we do it. And so it really is something that marketers have to get better at. And, some of us are doing this ETL thing that you mentioned right now. Like, let's dumb it right down to something like spreadsheets. Yep. How am I as a marketer already doing some form of ETL when I'm manipulating a spreadsheet?
Yeah. So ETL, extract, transform, and load, right? So ETL. You can also have ELT. You can also have extract, load, and then you transform. Well, I'll kind of break down the differences here. So
sure. ETL. Let's take off extract. Okay.
Extract. You download something out of a platform into a spreadsheet. You've extracted the data. There's your E. It's literally something like that, right?
Yep.
Transform. Transform is literally cleaning of the data. So if you manipulate the data in any way, you are transforming the data. This could be something as maybe you want dates to look a certain way. Maybe the way that you extract it, it's month, day, year, but you want year, month, day. So you go in and you change that. You might use Excel formulas to do this, right? You might be manually doing it, right? Like that's transforming data. That is literally what that looks like. And then you got the load. I'm now taking the data and I'm putting it somewhere. So you mentioned like databases, common ones that we're working with. Google BigQuery, if you've heard these words, Amazon S3, if you've heard of Snowflake, these are just central repositories where we're now housing this data because we need it to kind of sit there. And then eventually we're going to take action on it. So that's the very manual, when I kind of skipped over, even like with the loading aspect, when you load it into those databases, they have a schema, which just means like the data has to be formatted in a way that it can read it. So now that's correct, right? And if you're not in that same schema, it's not gonna load. You're gonna get errors thrown back to you, and you're gonna be really frustrated. So you're probably gonna have to transform based off how your database wants that data. So what I've also described is incredibly manual. It's incredibly painful, and it's not a lot of fun.
No, but it's vital, and I think sometimes these little differences kind of escape us, which is why I'll keep us down at the bottom of each of these kind of continuums for right now, because then we can. You helped me appreciate that each one of them you can go from like really simple to very, very automated and sophisticated, but keeping it really simple. So let's say that I just download something as a CSV from a platform. Yep. Then I'm taking that, and when I go to want to transform it, one of the things that I notice is these, if I open them in a spreadsheet, their look changes from case to case. And I'm even taken back to how some of them look like they're meant to be printed. And, if any of us has like a dear old aunt that sends us like a recipe and they wanted to use like a spreadsheet because they wanted it to be nice and like neatly in columns, they might do that, but they're throwing stuff in there. They're, like 1 cup of this and 4 TSPB of that, and it might look nice when you print it, but that is far from being in the row and column of a relational database that you said like a schema can read, right?
That's right.
So let's jump into a couple of those ones that are really off. So spaces. Computers really don't like spaces where they're not supposed to be, right? So we can even consider like null lines. One of my favorite ones, and there's a member of my family that I won't mention that does this. They've gone in and done a spreadsheet where they put quote marks underneath a line because they were like, well, that means ditto. So I want what was on the first line to be copied. And I'm like, no, you see, that's one of the big differences. A database, even if you're repeating, like you have to repeat because it needs that as a placeholder in that cell.
That's right.
So that the column next to it can have different stuff.
That's right. And like this all matters because eventually you're going to want to take action on this data, right? So I have it. We talked about just that process of getting it in there. But now this is where, you've heard these fancy titles of data scientists, right? Or you just want to be able to visualize the database. Maybe you have Data Studio visualizing your BigQuery. That's a very common use case that I see with marketers, right?
Yep.
And it has to, all of those variables, all those characters, they have to align in order to read correctly, or else your graph is going to be off. It's not going to be accurate. And now you show up to the end of your meeting and your line chart is not working. It is broken. And so this is where software really has come in. Like as marketers, we've heard of maybe funnel.io. They're prepping for an IPO. So they're apparently doing really well, but they can ingest like over 700 sources because they want to automate that and let you visualize it. This is something back in my ad stage days that we did. We took a bet on a couple of things and it turns out we were wrong. So that's fun. But it happens. It happens.
Right.
And,
So just so I'm clear, we've hopped back for just a quick moment on the E. No, but it's a really good point. I don't want to miss it. So on the E part, I talked about us downloading a CSV file. You've just highlighted how there are companies out there that will set up connections to each one of the sources, and they will handle the E part of this, right? So
correct.
One or two quick things. Stop me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
These are using automated programming interfaces, APIs, right?
APIs, yeah.
So if I don't know what an API is, or I've used it and I don't even realize it, that is, in my way of thinking, nothing more than what I'm doing when I go and hit the, choose date for report and download, save as. But it's doing it not via the screen. It's actually going through the back door that the company has provided.
Yeah, that's a nice, easy example, right?
So if I hand over a login, if I hand over my authentication, I'm letting a tool like funnel.io API through to that source and pull the data back for an extract.
Yeah, that's correct. Maybe you've used Supermetrics.
Right. There's another one.
They're pulling that data right into Google Sheets. Some people use Google Sheets as their database, right? Or they use it as their collection for marketing, right? Like all they're doing, they're calling Facebook and they're pulling it in. And so you can then set up, hey, schedule this weekly, or you can have like a button that you push, go get this data, right? That's the extraction piece, and they're doing it for you, so you don't have to go in, do this manually every single time, download it, put it into Google Sheets, right? Like they've automated that process.
Right. In most cases, ETL, when we're talking, let's just be fair, it's batch. So like you said, next time, right? So where I would do it maybe weekly or monthly, these tools that I'm giving this job will maybe do it overnight, right?
Yeah. And that you made a really good point there, because there are very sophisticated ETLs where you can do streaming. So that's the opposite of a batch, what Glenn just said. So batch is one-time call at this time or whenever I define. And that's a batch call, get this data extracted into where I want it to go. So that's the difference there. There are streaming, that is a possibility, but the batch is by far the most common, and probably realistically, unless you've just got buku's amount of data and you're able to action off in like minutes and hours to do something, you're probably doing batch.
Yeah. And that's going to work, but the data amount actually comes into play here. So, if there were computer scientists, in this recording with us, they would be probably hopping up and down right now to tell us all the reasons why, streaming is different. But just, I guess, the tip of the iceberg that helped me understand it was, if I'm using Google Sheets, that bottom where you hit the bottom row of a Google Sheet and it says, would you like to add more rows?
Yes.
Like that's a real thing, right? Like we think it's infinite, but there actually are finite. I think I heard it's 5 million cells is what you can fill in Google Sheets, right? Before it cacks. The problem is that when we're ingesting data, like we've talked about here, that becomes a possibility. It's not just some theoretical.
No, I mean, we have a client, or I should say a customer of ours at Osmos, and they're doing roughly 200 million rows a day.
Yeah. So
they've got a big retailer, and they're wanting to. What they're doing with that data is they're actually personalizing marketing based off these things, right? So they're actually taking that data in, using Osmos to we're kind of you could say it's an ETL. They've got it cleaned up. We're sending it, matching their database schema. They're then pulling it into their product and they're going, okay, cool. I'm going to send this email to this person because they like these products. I'm going to go do this over here on Facebook ads. Like, it's highly sophisticated. And we're just like, I say it's a little bitty piece, but it is an important piece of the puzzle to make sure that they have that accurate data and clean data to therefore be usable data. I know I just used a bunch of lingo, but it matters.
It's all good. And we're moving around. But so when we come back to that thing about, if we're using Google Sheets or, you mentioned Snowflake or S3, BigQuery. So yeah, maybe the way to think about it, and you've highlighted it, is the size of the place where you're loading the data. It has to be sized to fit the size of the data that you're extracting.
Yeah, that's
right. Like the E and the L have to match. So, as you move up this continuum from CSVs and spreadsheets to, larger sources and databases, you start to need third-party tools that get in here and help, right? So take us through, we've already talked about some of the validation stuff, like the simple stuff, but where does an automation tool come into helping us do that transform in a way that just outstrips what, a human being can realistically get done?
This is what we're at. This is like you're teeing me up really well here, and I'm trying not to like tout Osmos too much here. But we're in this really, I would say, a crux. We're in this like this really cool inflection point in technology, and so currently, really the way it's been solved the last 10, 15 years is an engineer is writing SQL queries. So that what they're saying is this information lives in this database. SQL is typically the code that is used to query the tables, to query the database, to then extract the data out. Incredibly manual, but these people are very gifted and they get paid a ton of money, right?
Right. So let's take one example. I'm going to pick on. We're on audio here, but full disclosure, JD's wearing probably a UC Santa Cruz shirt.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Okay, well, so let's pick that, and we've got names of people and the universities they attended, and a whole bunch of them are UCSC.
That's right.
But they don't all say that because it was on a form. So some of them put UC space Santa Cruz, UC space SC, any variation you want to imagine, right?
That's right.
A SQL query, so the structured query language, that's the tool that person is going to go in and say, all right, any of these all variations, we're going to call it one thing in the final column. And that's what's going to get loaded. So the cleanup, right? They're using a SQL to run that. And that SQL, just like the extraction, that can be run, let's say, in the morning once the new amount of data has been inserted into the staging area. And they can do that. Okay, so I've now teed you up. That's what we used to do for that sort of thing, right?
I mean, that's what we're still doing.
What's wrong with that?
The way I like to think of it too is like we're all in spreadsheets. Imagine filters. And basically with SQL queries, I'm running a filter on a table. And I say table, it's in your database. So I filter on this. And I'm writing filter this date, filter this, filter. Now
so right. And what you didn't need to know was how to write a whole query language, which the SQL example you do, right? There are people that spend years in school learning SQL.
Yes.
So databases and
skill.
So you're using a spreadsheet-like interface to get at a database. And if my guess is right, probably this no-code thing you're using is making code that runs something like a SQL in the back.
Yeah, you're correct. So it's been kind of fun learning this side of things. So our founders came from Google Cloud. That's where they were. Our CEO, though, he was also at Microsoft, and he's probably one of the top 40, 50 experts in what's called program synthesis. Super geeky. I'll let you go.
Google that.
research that around AI and ML, but
Yeah.
he's really good at machine learning, and it's a thing called program synthesis. And basically, what we're able to do is just with a few examples. So, and you like literally just type them in. So if you want first name to look like this, you just type in first name. It's looking at this column and this data, and we're able to infer and then auto-populate. That's amazing, right? I just cleaned up thousands of rows for you really, really quickly. So this is kind of that data cleansing. We can also do data mapping. So this is map these columns together. Take this, map it to here. I don't actually need to change anything. So that's formulas, that's mapping. And then the last piece is you can then like train it, as I was mentioning. So you can get pretty advanced with that. And here's the great thing with all that schema, it's now remembered. You don't have to repeat it. So now I understand how you want the data to look. And every time you come in and upload it or it passes through, I'm going to do the exact same thing. And now it's a completely automated transformation. And so that's what's like really cool about that. And, you know, it's getting there. Is it perfect? I'd say 95% of the time. But here's the inflection point that we were talking about. You were talking, it's been very manual, and human beings have a lot of control over that, and they want it to look a certain way. And now all of a sudden, you know, the machines are doing it for them, and they're really skeptical. And so it's been the marketer side of things. It's been fun to have to behavior change and teach someone, hey, non-technical person can go and do this now. And they're, you know, it gets a little defensive.
Yeah. And well, we've got, you know, little empires inside of most, you know, in-house teams that there's the IT people over there and the marketing people over here. Never the twain shall meet. Right. So we have some work to do, but I think there's a promise there. And like, let's delve into that for a second. We've kind of talked about, you know, it's not nice to have dirty data. And I suppose there's, you know, it's not fun, but let's flip it to the upside, JD. When we're looking at why I should, like, what's possible once I have quickly, you know, brought data into a consistent and quality format. Now I got it in my database. I've loaded it.
Yep.
What now can I do? Like, this is where I think this is great for marketers, because this now unleashes our imagination, right?
That's right.
On what we can do.
So for marketers, there's a lot of things. I'll focus on marketers, and I'll kind of explain how companies do it too, right? So marketers first, since all of us here are probably marketers listening, you're now able to like not only visualize, but now you can start joining things. So this is another term, but now you can join, right? Now I can take behavior, maybe it's purchase behavior. Maybe I can join that with click behavior. And this is what AdStage, you know, this is the company I worked at years ago. This was our bet. This is really where we focused on. So we said, hey, we're going to pull in really your 80% of your spend is in these 5 to 6 platforms. We're going to ingest it and we're going to normalize it. So normalizing is, again, it's the transformation piece. We're just saying a click in LinkedIn equals a click in Facebook because they named them differently. And we're going to make that really easy to understand and visualize. We then said, we're going to now do joins. And what we mean by join is we can take this information and now we can join it with Google Analytics. We can join it with Salesforce, like your CRM. We can join it with your HubSpot. Now, this was the bet, right? You can basically go from impression to click to lead all the way into your CRM and say, purchase, opportunity, SQL, right? You start thinking this B2B terms here, and I'm able to track all the way through. Like, you know, the attribution is always fun. We can get into that later, but like you could basically track it through and understand what's happening.
Yeah, no, and there's
that would be pretty fun, right?
and I don't think it's more than just a one company bet. I think it is an aspiration for agencies and for brands out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it for a second, a funnel, it kind of has the idea of gravity, right? So stuff on the top of them and then going to the bottom. And that's how we want to see things. And the reality, though, when you look at the systems, they're all like these horizontal bars where each of them has one level or tier of that funnel. And so these two things are not jiving at all. And this is where, if we normalize data, there at least is the promise of being able to, like you said, go through and understand what things were caused at the top that had the effect at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. So it is there. And, if I take an example like keywords, you kind of were hinting at this with bringing in the Google Analytics data. With Google Analytics and specifically with Search Console, you can get your organic keywords, right? So they're not called, as you said, the column names are not going to be the same as what your Google ads or your Microsoft ads are going to have, but the fields are the same thing.
Correct.
So the benefit of having, a clean set of data is those joins become possible. And I can all of a sudden ask a question like, all right, what are the top producing organic keywords that I'm missing out on in my paid search campaigns?
Yep. There you go. I mean, that's it. And now take it at the company level. So we talked about marketers. Imagine having a really cool BI tool that you can do the exact same thing to. And so now business leaders can say, ask a question. Like, there's a really cool BI tool using conversational intelligence on your database. So I just said a lot of jargon, and I apologize. So imagine being able to ask a question. It infers what you're asking from the database and shows you the answer in seconds. So it's a company called ThoughtSpot. Go check them out. Such a cool demo. Go play around. Now, this is very enterprise level software. It is very expensive. However, it is really cool to see, okay, I'm ingesting this information. It's in my database, and I can write a question. How many leads did we get in Georgia? Boom.
Yep.
Answer, right? And you're writing it because that's how you think, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to go query, right? SQL query to go figure this out, right? Like, I can literally write the question. And that's what's really cool, where I see is advancement and be able to make business decisions really quick.
Yeah.
I just plugged them, I know, but like I just think it's really cool. Like, I think they have really cool tech.
All that enterprise stuff and the AI stuff, that is what even those in SMB need as a taste of, what they might be seeing in the near future. Right. But if we boil it down to, because I think it's great for people to do like a gap analysis of like, what have I not even done right now? Right. So like a simple one that I think makes a very strong case for ETL tools is once I've got leads in. So if I've got leads that have zip or postal codes in them, or they have a company name in them. So if I want to make things better in our organization, I can go out and get another data source that has, let's say, those zip codes and mapped maybe to my sales territories.
There you go.
Right. So now I've got the leads in, and I can just, like you said, it's not going to be as fast as ThoughtSpot, but I can, without much difficulty, arrange for a tidy report of here are the leads that we had by territory in the last quarter.
Yeah, correct. And that's that is why this stuff is becoming so important, right? And also, like, the volume too is also going to help. And I say the volume because it's going to help basically give you more data points to either join, right? So maybe you've got, here's a fun one, and I use all the time, right? You've done a partner webinar, and now you want to like share leads. This is a very common practice for B2B marketers. You're going to be sharing leads. You did a co-marketing event together. And now you need to put them in your CRM.
Oh boy.
right?
Oh no, I'm going into duplicate hell here.
There you go, right? Duplicate. Did you clean it? Like it's letters, right? Like, are you going to pivot off of email address? Are you going to, like, you know what I mean? Like when you think about
Yeah.
joining, I mean like pivot, like imagine like an Excel spreadsheet pivot. What happens when you have the same email? What happens when you have the same email, but their first name is different? I might have put Jason instead of JD.
Yeah.
Is that the same person?
Yeah.
And now you're having lots of fun with data and making sure clean data, but also you're going to, if this is in your CRM, again, it's like a database, right? This is where your Salesforce and your HubSpot, you want to be clean because now you're going to be taking action on that. This is your marketing automation is sitting on top of that, right? This is emails that you're sending. Are you sending emails do you want that first name to be capitalized or is it okay if it's under, JD with lowercase? That makes a difference now, right? Like that's a real life example of data cleanliness and hygiene in a real world example.
And marketers, I'm sure any of them that are working with data that the sales team is touching,
especially the sales team.
Right? This is the bane of their existence. I mean, I literally don't go a day without, hearing other marketers say, okay, I want to show how we're doing good, but for these reasons, insert, bad data that salespeople have been entering, I can't, right? I mean, or it's messy, or it's going to take me days to even understand whether or not this little thing that we did should be repeated, like a webinar, right? Yep. And I'm going to get really dorky here, but Lord of the Rings comes to mind, and I can just picture like Gandalf standing there saying, bad data, you shall not pass. We need to clean it before it goes in, and we need to keep it clean.
That's right. And now here comes the fun part, right? I'm going to talk about reverse ETL.
Yeah.
Oh man, here we go.
All right.
Buzzword central here. This is super hot right now in the like Silicon Valley SaaS space. So I'm going to geek out a little bit. We put it all in our database. It's now clean. Now we want to send it back to Facebook. Now we want to send it back, right? Send customer data here. Maybe we want to bring it in. We want to clean it. We want to, you could say append data to it. And now I want to send it back out. That's a reverse ETL, right? And so that one is now the new kind of fun, they're calling it the last mile of data, right? And so they got some good marketing. They're clever. Again, can you use the normal ETL to do that? Typically, but the normal ETL think about is internal data coming in.
Yes.
Most people are using ETL for internal data, which is kind of fun. Osmos is specifically focused on external data. So that's also kind of an interesting space when you think about different types of ETLs. But now you have reverse ETL, which is it's in my database and I need to take action on it on my marketing campaigns, my marketing action.
Right. And that's
the new one. Get ready for it. You're going to buying another shiny new tool. Get your budgets ready.
But again, the brain expanding moment here that, I think most marketers are going to see more of is the machines are here, guys. And we have, like JD's just highlighted a case. We've all been thinking, okay, so machines to human, right? And we've got this, there's too much data around. For anybody who remembers those old days of like turn and type, we used to have a joke called turn and type integration, where I would literally see information on one screen, turn my chair, type the information back into another screen. So that was to me like, machine to machine, but via a human. Now we're going into machine to machine, but no humans in the loop.
Yeah, well, and here's where humans should be in the loop. And this is how we think about it. You need to be there to handle errors. So you don't need to be there to handle the ingestion or to handle a lot of the stuff that can be automated quickly and easily. What you need machines is to tell you when to get involved, right?
Yeah. And so how do the machines do that? What is the typical, like, do I come in the morning and there's a notification or a log?
Yeah, typically, yeah. That's how we're kind of handling it. And I'm only giving my own experience. It's really, let's say you have a partner so we have what's called an uploader, and it's like a button that you'd put on your website, and third parties, users, customers can upload data right into your system based off the schema that you defined, right?
Yep.
If they run into an error, you're going to get an email. Hey, user X had this error. What do you want to do? And we actually just show it to you. Like, how do you want to resolve this error? Do you want it to be a null? Maybe they typed in a 0 instead of an O, right? I mean, these little things, it makes a difference. And so you just come in and you're just correcting. And then we remember it. So that hopefully that error doesn't happen again and you're good to go, right? Like that's how machines should be helping humans. Again, it's it's another piece of software. But if you're doing this in a regular cadence and you have enough data and enough sources, it's worth, probably paying for something to do this. I mean,
yeah. So you and I both know this person mutually, Fred Valais, and Fred, has written a well-known book about marketing in an AI world. And he talks about how marketers need to start thinking of themselves as pilots, right? And this is an example of where they're going to be a pilot. So a pilot, I think he says in the book, except for about 7 minutes in an average flight, the pilot's not really flying the plane. And
correct.
We're all okay with that now. I mean, whether we knew that or not, because we get where we're going. But it's the times where they disengage the autopilot and say, oh, I see you, we're going to do something wrong there. I'm going to handle this part of it. This is part of our new job. And one of the things that I have heard more often is this term observable, right? So is, the database and that this whole set of pipes that is pushing data around, it needs to be observable, meaning that no, you don't need to sit there 24/7 glued to it while it does its job, but you do need to spot check it, or you need to have these pings that come back at you when something that was expected to happen didn't happen the way it was supposed to, right?
Yeah. And that's the best part, that is how machines and humans can interact when we talk about ETLs. This is something that we're thinking about. This is something I'm sure a lot of companies are thinking about as well, and probably executing better than us. But it is that. It's 100% that. Here's a log. This pipeline ran, and we're saying pipeline is the flow of data from one point, source to destination.
Yep.
And we're saying, hey, there were 500 records that were processed out of 500. You might get a ping that says 490 out of 500. There were 10 errors thrown here. Go in and correct them. And now you've corrected them and it remembers. And this is where machines are great. Machines are great at remembering. They love this kind of stuff. They love if this, then that, right? This is basically what we're saying when we say machine learning is if this happens, then do this. But we can get really sophisticated with it and we can remember formulas. We can do this where humans, you shouldn't have to do this at this point. It's been solved. Now we're at the inflection point of, are we going to be okay with it? And when are we going to, get that adoption of it?
Yeah. We can now let go a little bit of our fierce desire to do things manually, right? And we can actually get on to higher level, better strategy, being better marketers.
Yeah, I mean, it just speeds up things. I mean, I remember when I was agency side, 6 years ago, and we were still doing things very manual. It was at the cusp when bigger agencies were really starting to think about this. This was right around 2015. All of a sudden, it was no longer just Google. Facebook was a real contender. Now you had this duopoly. Now we're realistically at a triopoly.
Yep.
But now when you look at even funnel with 700 sources, you're like, wow. we have come a long way. There are a lot of different ways to spend money, and that's just for marketing. Now think about your finance team, your HR team. Think about your product team. Everyone is bringing in all of their data and their sourcing. It's no longer just you. Sales teams now have, sales pipelines, right? There is so much data that's being ingested, and it it can no longer just have this bottleneck of
Yeah.
a data engineer manually uploading and cleaning a CSV. Like,
Yeah, and we're at the point where marketing can take it on themselves. Like that's, and I'm sure the IT people, given the litany of departments you just mentioned, IT is going to really welcome marketing saying, "It's okay, fam, I gotcha." You know,
I hope
reminded
so.
of Mark Benioff. Like Mark Benioff, he said every company is a software company, and based on what you just said, that's true now.
Everyone's a software company, and we've only seen the amount of data coming in. Like, you could talk about big data, but like it's that term was like 10 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
It's now the volume of data, the sources of data, and it's exponentially growing, and it's for every single company. It's not just the big enterprise companies of the world. It's literally, I just described 700 for marketing, sale. Like, every team has these issues as well. So yeah, you're correct. Every company is becoming a software company. And we as marketers, I think we should welcome it. Like, do I want to be cleaning spreadsheets all day? No. Does IT want to be cleaning spreadsheets all day? No. Pay the $200 a month, automate it, and figure it out, and work on strategy, work on creative, do the things that require a lot of human brain activity, outside of just kind of like mindless cleaning of data.
So JD, as we wrap up, I want to just ask you, because you do have a nice perch within, this class of companies, right? You're now, in a MarTech company that's in this exact space. What advice would you give to marketers so that they, from the outside in, can understand what different kinds of software they should look at? Because it's overwhelming to someone who's, because they're going to hear about, let's say, Osmos, but then next week they're going to hear about another company, but they don't do what you do. And they're going to wonder, oh, well, I thought I was done. So just maybe help us understand, in this huge stack that marketers need to build, like some of the main things.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think you're going to want to outline, and I think that's probably where I would start, is what are your goals? And
Exactly.
then really start to outline what your stack is going to look like and what you need, where are the gaps. I mean, and then try to figure out where automation and where software can really take some of that burden off of you. If you're spending 10 hours a week doing something that can be automated for a couple $100, I guarantee that trade-off is worth it. It's time and energy. Like, you have to invest in some of this stuff. And I know budgets aren't always there, but I think that's part of it. And then probably my last one is something that I've been thinking through myself for the last couple of years. Is it's the rise of the technical marketer. And I think we're, as not even just in PPC, but like, technical marketers are extremely valuable. If you can understand the ops side of things, if you can understand cleaning of data, maneuvering data, and this is something even like Google Tag Manager, right? That we've all become to love and hate, right? Where you're tracking clicks on a button, right? But like, you're literally, you are using code and you don't even realize it, right? But like, understanding how to do that and having that willingness to learn that, I think is going to serve you very well, as opposed to our brand marketing friends that are going to be over here doing probably a little bit more of the creative side of things, of figuring out how to run campaigns.
No, your point's very well made. Just like step back or get into a room with a whiteboard and draw out your process, right? Or the main processes that you have to do regularly. Right. So if you're an ABM marketer, one of your processes is probably going in and getting outside data that ties to the companies that are in your ABM target. That's right. So, and then you ask, just like you said, the questions of, okay, how much work do I have to do? All right. Is there a tool for that? Right. And just let that be your guide.
Yeah. Go get on some demos, go talk to them and see what the best case is. Like, we have a lot of people that come in every week and, they just want to see, can Osmo solve my problem? And so we just kind of show them, like, we just get on a demo and we do a proof of concept. Sometimes it's a good fit. Sometimes it isn't. And that's okay, right? Like, it's okay to take 30 minutes of your week, go listen to like a sales or product person give you a quick pitch. But I guarantee it's going to be worth your time, and you're going to be able to be a lot happier going into 2022.
I think that's an excellent little takeaway that anybody can do, is to give a shot at a demo. And I laugh because if nothing else, you are getting a chance as a marketer to go and look at the sales process that another marketer like you probably engineered, right? So it's not, there's no lost time here. You're going to get something out of it no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it. Is ours buttoned up? Don't judge us too closely, but we're getting there. I mean, it's a process, right? And so I just think, if you would have asked me 5 years ago to go get on a demo, I would have told you no, get away. Yep. I hate demos. I don't want to talk to a salesperson. But now I'm at a point where I don't want to spend 2 hours trying to figure it out. Doing right, where I can just get the information quicker. I'll schedule it at a time that's convenient. Like, it's kind of funny that I become more pro demo of like, just give it, like, let me see this. Like, no, okay, it's not gonna be a fit. We'll see you later. Or like, actually, this is good. Like,
that's right.
Let's continue the conversation. I know maybe it's my maturity. Maybe I'm just beaten down. I don't know. Like, I'm more okay with demos now. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the great thing about it is that each of these products, they've gone and already narrowed to a solution set, right? So I think that's way better than I can recall. It's going back quite a few years, but pulling in consulting companies who are trying to sell you on a customized solution. And that's way more painful and way more time spent, right? At least 30 minutes, you're in and out. And you can understand, whether it's a fit or not. So that to me seems like a fair trade.
Yeah. I mean, and it's okay. Like, just go do it. But yeah, first outline your stack, understand your goals, and see where automation and software can help augment a lot of that manual process, and have fun with it. Enjoy these fancy words like ETL and ELT and reverse ETL. Like, you're doing it already. Let software help you out.
Awesome. JD, if they want to find out more about Osmos or you, where can people go?
Yeah, check us out. Osmos.io. Classic, startup URL there. The .com. If they're listening, whoever the troll is sitting on the .com, please let go. But or don't charge us so much to get it, right? But yeah, and then for me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can follow me on Twitter. I've been a little quiet on Twitter lately, but it's at JD Prater, Prater.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JD. And for those who have listened, I know that you've got a lot. Listen, there was an alphabet soup of terms here, so I promise you the show notes are going to have all of the things that JD and I mentioned, so you can go and check them out and look at the links for the tools that have been mentioned. And thank you so much for this. If you have an idea or a guest that you want us to put on a future show, get in touch with me at HeyGlennis or at Funnel Reboot. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter at Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.